Hi guys, welcome back to another video chronicling some of the exciting expansions that have come out for Kingdom Death. This is a review. I've only played Spidicules, who is the gentleman we're looking at today, up to level 1. So I'm not as an expert on him as some of the other characters or models that we've fought. But I'd like to think I've got a feel for him. He's a cool model, there is no denying it, but I think that this is the only model I felt that the model impedes the play of the game. I do like all of the features that he brings. He brings an exciting new mechanic to the game, and I think that that's excellent. He's another huntable monster, roughly at the antelope level in terms of the gameplay. So it's a nice early monster to hunt and offers some interesting new tactics. But he's just such a pain to get on the table. So we'll zoom in a little bit on the components and I'll show you what I mean. So here we have Spidicules, and I've set up most of the items that come alongside the critter. We do have armor kits. I didn't showcase the armor kits for the Gorm either. They're sort of tucked away in my box of armor kits. So you do get armor kits just as you do with all of the monsters in the game. So this is Spidicules. Many will have heard about the leg problem that he has. So you stick all of these legs in, and it's this leg and this leg. There's a little gap there, but that's fine. These two legs are almost the same in the way they look. So essentially the Chinese factory has shipped a lot of packages with duplicate legs. As it stands, there's loads of people with the other duplicate, so this was not something I resolved through Kingdom Death, although I think they have no problem doing that. But you might need to hunt out some new legs. I do think they get in touch and they help you out if you are missing them. These are the little monsters that come with him. I think I've done his arms, his legs right there. These these are quite fiddly to do. Those legs are glued in individually. Again, you can see the odd little gap. They're actually quite cute, the little monsters. And as you can probably guess, this is all about ad control. And he spawns lots of different ads. So you get a cool book, just as before. Okay, it's got an amazing story in it, just as before. A lot of these stories do have sort of quite debilitating things. So this one has people getting a rival scar, so evasion and stuff like that. It also requires 2 male survivors, so you might not be able to do this one. And one of them, oh, spoilers, one of them dies before you even hunt the monster. So so that's quite annoying, I suppose. It also comes with this new mid-tier event. I can't remember what it replaces, the encroaching darkness, so, or whatever it's called, but yeah, you have to do that. So instead of rolling on the path of the courageous and so on, you roll and you have to offer up sacrifices to get this big gate to open. And the Lonely Tree has this as well. I believe the Flower Knight does too, which is cool. Slightly different, still painful. Okay, he comes with a couple of terrain tiles. I haven't got all of the eggs out, but you've got the egg sac, which is sort of a nesting ground, and the egg itself. You can harvest these for silk, which is one of the special resources, and a couple of settlement event cards. So there's Gorm brings 1, and painful one, it never ends. This one brings 2, which is kind of cool. Slenderman brings another 1. He comes with a settlement location, which lets you build this silk stuff. Okay, he also lets you build some of these things. This is one of the ones I've hunted the least, so my knowledge of this is limited, but I still think it's sort of enough to give you a gist of what's going on with the critter. The monster's cool. It has some unique abilities that I think are quite special and are certainly worth exploring, and certainly offer a bit of variety to the game. The hit location deck is much like any other hit location deck, but you have all of these 4-leg cards. Okay, 4 legs, 4 legs, 4 legs, okay, and so on and so forth. Okay, in fact they're all 4 legs. You'd think there'd be some hind legs. but no, they're all 4 legs. Never mind. But when you chop them off, they go away. They go out of the deck. Okay. If you can ever chop off all 8, then you've got this thing called the legless bull, and that's an innovation. So you can wheel him home, and he hurts your survivors and stuff. But he then becomes like a permanent source of silk, which is a really cool mechanic. And of course, by the time you've chopped out 6 of these cards, you're now looking at actually a significantly smaller AI deck, which means that you're more likely to run into the trap. So that's quite interesting. So, he has loads and loads of these. I'm not going to go through all of the different traits and stuff, but I think what's most noticeable for me is many of his cards will have a mood effect. So when this comes into play, this is a legendary one, so when this comes into play, discard all other moods and perform a basic action. His basic action, we do have down here. It's a very similar to sort of the antelope, 1 damage, 2 accuracy, 2 speed. This is not a mega thing or anything like that. So it's a very low level attack. Whilst this is in play, spidling actions gain the following profile. After damage, explode. All survivors adjacent to the spiderling suffers 3 damage to 3 hit locations. You can see why this one's a legendary one. But there's like meat mist, and there's lots and lots of them. So what I found quite interesting is many of his hit locations require him to run away, and a lot of his what are these called, AI cards, they just are cycling out moods. So if you can manage the ads, at least at level 1, level 2 he starts spawning ads every turn, so I think that will become a much more interesting game. But if you can manage the ads, then he's quite predictable. He doesn't do a great deal. He'll just tend to end up doing basic action, basic action, basic action, and that is dependent on what you've got here. Like there are so animate, for example. So you can have Stalk Puppet, which is one of the little storybook sort of things happening to you. So it's cool, and I love what he's done with it. I love that there's these ads to manage. But at level 1, I don't think it's that interesting. In fact, it's quite a frustrating fight, because if you look at his move, it is, where do we have it? His movement is 11, and yes, it gets less as you hack off legs, which is cool, but he moves away, and you can end up not doing a great deal, and he doesn't, well, I suppose he comes and crunches you a little bit, but you hit him once, and then he's off again across the board. So it does convey that feeling of a cool spider sort of thing. But in the same breath, I often end up feeling quite frustrated against him. I just want to get and crunch him, and I don't mind being grabbed or something, but when he's moving off 11, you just sort of get a bit annoyed. The spiders have the same toughness as him, if anyone's interested. They have no AI card, you just squish them. Okay, so if you can land 1 hit of that toughness, then they're gone. And that at level 3 will be quite hard. I mean, the toughness is 12 at level 3, so yeah, I mean, that's quite bad. He also causes bleed at level 3 as well. The big problem I have with him, I'm on quite a small table here, and you can see it's one of these sort of drop-down tables, and my board goes right up to the edge, so what ends up happening is that, okay, or potentially that, because he's on the last space of the board. Do you see what I mean? That's not a fun position to have your fight in. So you get a circular normal size base, normal monster size base, and that place is underneath where he is, and oh, you can't see, it places underneath where he is, and that can move right to the edge of the board, but it means he comes off of the board, and I suppose it's worsened by the fact that, here you go, he's gone on the floor. It's worsened by the fact that I'm on a ridged table, but again, I do love what they're doing. I just wish it was a little cleaner. So he's probably my least favourite huntable monster. Not because of the because of a number of reasons. The mechanics end up frustrating me more than anything, and the fact that it's just a bit awkward. He's got all of these sort of spindly tassels at the bottom, and they just capture your little survivor, because you've got to put him under there, and it's all really, it is fragile. So yeah, it's a shame, and I do love what Poot has done, and I'm not criticising this. I still think it's a fantastic addition. It's certainly one, I have no regrets on any level buying it, but in the list of the expansions that are available, it's not top of my list. It would probably be second from bottom. I would probably put the Lonely Tree below this and the Lion God. The Lion God simply because it's so hard to beat, and then the Lonely Tree just because I've actually yet to experience it. It's really unlikely you're going to see it. It's a beautiful model, but it doesn't really add a lot to the game. Some of the monster weapons are quite cool though. Okay, so you've got a Silk Whip, which has got quite a good amount of damage. Okay, all about archiving mood. Some armour. It's sort of quite high level armour, and you'll notice it's not heavy, which is nice because obviously heavy stuff can be quite bad. A scrap katar, so it's like a nice sort of damaging katar. A throwing knife, which is quite cool but quite inaccurate, so that's cool. So there's some interesting things. The amber edge, so slow weapon. Okay, so there's some interesting stuff. I haven't really used it a great deal, so I don't know this one like I do the Gorm, for example. But there's some cool stuff. I mean, it's beautiful that they've got unique art for each one. So you can see that there's silk robes here. Okay, we'll use the silk sash. So the silk sash is sort of, I don't know, I think it's supposed to be girl and boy. Okay, but that's kind of cool. A lot of the expansions here are about sort of silk, I suppose. They're about healing things and stuff like that. You can up your armour, and I think it's quite an interesting thing. These rings I do think are quite special. I play solo, so I'm not sure how useful they are, but the first time you are attacked each round, gain +3 to all hit locations if you are the monster controller. Mental. So this all plays off of the monster controller. You gain a bleeding token, then the monster suffers a wound if you gain a bleeding token. So that's nice. This one sort of helps you tank, reduce every damage. There's some interesting stuff here. I think that the idea with the monster controller thing is really cool, but Poots has said that obviously I'm always the monster controller, so you put it next to a character. So it's not as cool as the Gorm. I prefer the model here. I love the tactics. It's very interesting. It's just too awkward for me to love. And that's a bit of a shame. Another very tangible but crappier reason is that if you hunt this guy over the antelope, you don't get anything like the number of acanthus plants that you get with the antelope. I know that's a stupid reason to hunt the antelope, but that offers healing, cooking if you want it to. I feel like missing out on that is actually quite bad, so that's another reason that I haven't used him as much. But an interesting character. I love the innovation you get by wheeling him home. Some cool stories as well. But yeah, just a couple of things which don't quite connect with me. If this was a normal game, I'd be like, oh my god, it's the best game ever, this is amazing. Just because everything else is so beyond exceptional that this one falls just a little flat. So that's my review of Spidicules. Hopefully you found it interesting.